Hey there YouTube, Busy Boy Lippin out here with another reaction video. Today we got how this new stealth plane keeps the US ahead of China by search party. Let's get right into it, shall we? Hit it.
In November 2023, this mysterious airplane took flight for the first time. And it didn't look like a 2023. This mysterious airplane took flight for the first time. And it didn't look like a normal plane because, well, it isn't. Its distinctive wing shape, sleek profile, and almost everything else is designed for one purpose. To fly silently into any country on Earth, remain undetectable by any radar or sensors, and drop a bomb. It's called the B-21 Raider, and the United States government is willing to pay around $700 million for one of them, the same price as building a skyscraper.
Did my man just say $700 million for one plane? Bruh. I'm sorry. You could... I wonder how much world hunger you could just kind of prevent by just not buying one of those planes and just distributing that money to like the poor and developing countries. Anyway, that's just my thought on it. It's just... Yikes. Okay.
It's one of the most expensive planes the U.S. has ever made, so it's no surprise that its expectations are high.
This isn't just another airplane. It's the embodiment of America's determination, and it's a testament to our strategy of deterrence with the capabilities to back it up every time and everywhere. That's what America does.
So what is it about this plane that makes it so expensive? And does the U.S. really need it?
The B-21 Raider is the first strategic bomber in more than 3 decades.
The most capable stealth bomber ever built.
As long as we fight on the surface of the earth, Hitler has all the advantage.
More bang
But
for
with
the
a
buck.
strategy of air power, the advantage is ours.
For almost a century, one of the U.S. military strengths has been its air power. It's built some excellent fighter jets, sure, but it's always had some of the best bombers in the world. The U.S. used thousands of bombers to pummel Nazi Germany before invading, then used them again against communist forces in Korea and Vietnam.
Since the end of World War II, this has been an incredibly important strategic capability.
Todd Harrison is an expert in defense strategy.
A single aircraft could hit 50 or 80 targets. That is an incredible firepower advantage.
During the Cold War, the U.S. and the Soviet Union both kept large bomber fleets ready in case war broke out between them. But the U.S. kept improving its bombers because the Soviet Union kept building better air defenses. Air defenses are radars and sensors that detect and track planes, and guided missiles and fast fighter jets that can shoot them down.
Okay.
This cat and mouse game is how the U.S. ended up with the 3 types of bombers that it uses today. B-52H Stratofortress, which the U.S. has been using since the 1950s.
They're still there.
The B-1 Lancer from the 1980s.
Never seen them before.
And the B-2 Spirit from the 1990s.
The new one, okay.
Each can travel very long distances to bomb a target, but are limited by what kind of air defenses they encounter. If there aren't any, then the U.S. can use the Stratofortresses, which are huge but easily detectable. If there are older or not very sophisticated air defenses, the U.S. can use the B-1 Lancers, which can evade some radars by flying at low altitudes and up to 900 miles per hour.
Okay. Wow.
But if there are modern, advanced air defenses, the U.S. uses the B-2 Spirit, the world's only stealth bomber. Stealth basically means radars have a very hard time detecting it. The Spirit's shape and coating absorbs and deflects radar waves, so it appears smaller on radar than it actually is. It has a 172-foot long wingspan, but on most radars appears to be the size of a tennis ball. Spirits also have electronics that jam and obscure sensors, and even technology that hides the heat its engine emits from infrared sensors.
Damn.
So if sensors can't really detect the Spirit, then enemies can't really shoot it down. So it can theoretically get into any country and drop a bomb on anything. Just having that ability is a major way in which the U.S. protects itself.
Well, ultimately, it's about deterrence. When we get into a crisis situation with another country, we want them to be able to look at our fleet of aircraft and say,
I'm looking at $2.8 billion right in front of me, aren't I? $700 million each, right?
There's nothing we could do to stop those aircraft from hitting targets in our country. So we better back down.
This thinking also applies to the US's deadliest weapon.
All right, so the point here is that the US believes that in order to defend itself, it needs the ability to drop a bomb on anywhere on Earth. And so what I did here was design an animation that's going to visualize this cat and mouse game. Countries are going to build better and better defenses, and the US is going to have to build better and better, and I mean stealthier planes, in order to penetrate those defenses. If a country ever builds defenses that the US can't penetrate, the US considers that a national security threat. And so before moving on any further, I figured this might be a good...
We jump?
Nuclear weapons serve only one purpose. It's an important purpose, but it's a single purpose. And that's to prevent the use of nuclear weapons against us or our friends.
The US maintains 3 ways it can launch a nuclear weapon. These bombers,
triad,
land-based
right?
missiles, and submarine-based missiles.
Right.
So if an enemy destroys 2, the US will always have a third to strike back with. But having nuclear-capable bombers is particularly important to the US.
So the bomber leg of the triad, one of its main advantages is signaling. You can get your bombers airborne, and that sends a signal to an adversary that you're serious. If things change and you decide, hey, call off the attack, the bombers can turn around and come back.
But if you
Missiles,
shoot...
once you fire them, there's no bringing them back.
Yeah. They're
Theoretically, U.S. deterrence depends on having bombers that can evade.
And I think it's
domestic-
like a very common theory in law as well. It's not necessarily the punitive punishment for something. It might just even be the threat of you doing something is often just as effective of doing something else, of doing the exact same thing. So, yeah, quoted from Suits. So, fair enough.
their defenses, and enough of them to survive a major attack.
Right, yeah.
The problem is, the U.S. only has 19 Spirits left.
I mean, if I'm doing my numbers horribly wrong, it's like, what, 1.331 it's not trillions, is it? It's about, what, $13 billion worth, roughly?
Really took a peace dividend in the 1990s because we didn't have another major strategic rival. We only bought 21 of them in total. One of them crashed, and one of them is set aside just...
Oh, okay. Well, I remember this video.
Only bought 21 of them in total.
You want to see $700 million burn in flames? Go right ahead.
One of them crashed, and one of them is set aside just for testing purposes. You really only have 19 possible aircraft.
In fact, the U.S. has reduced its bomber fleet by 2/3 since 1990, and the planes that it still has are in pretty rough shape. The 19 Spirits and 62 Lancers are getting old and have become expensive to maintain. So the U.S. believes it needs a bomber to replace them that is more advanced and easier to operate. Their solution is the B-21 Raider.
Okay.
Despite limited information about it, the Raider is clearly inspired by the Spirit's design, with some improvements. Its tail shape will likely help it fly more efficiently at high altitudes than the Spirit's sawtooth-shaped tail, and its engine intake valves are lower, giving it a sleeker profile which will help it deflect radar better. The U.S. claims that on advanced radars, the Raider appears smaller than an insect. Plus, the defense company building the Raider claims that it will one day be able to be flown remotely, like a drone.
Okay.
Will any other country in the world have a plane comparable to the B-21?
Not even close, because this gives us a set of capabilities that really you can't find anywhere else.
The U.S. is keeping the Stratofortress to use against undefended targets, but by replacing the Lancers and the Spirits with Raiders, the U.S. is hoping to maintain the ability to bomb anything in the world, even as one country builds even better defenses.
China may be one step closer to attacking Taiwan.
China's air force is now the largest in Asia and the world's third largest.
Since the 1990s, China has poured hundreds of billions of dollars into improving its military. It's threatening to one day use it to invade Taiwan. But since the U.S. has promised to defend Taiwan, China's built some of the world's best air defenses.
So it's very difficult if you actually want to fly in or near China.
If a war broke out, China could use thousands of ballistic missiles to destroy U.S. bases in the region, forcing the U.S. to rely heavily on its bombers, which can take off from the mainland. But China could then use its very advanced radar to detect and then help destroy any non-stealthy bombers, leaving the US with only its Spirits to take them out. Since many of these defenses are mounted on vehicles, the Spirits would need to fly around for hours searching.
It's just like I'm getting the whole sense from the entire video that just the idea that for the US that if you cannot fly a plane anywhere else on the planet, it is a national security threat is wild to me. Like that is a policy that is just kind of, more than just militaristic, kind of excessive in my opinion, but hey, it is what it is. It's their opinion. It's the way they're operating. But the fact that, bro, you go to this level and extremes to maintain a special, plane force to just take out a potential adversary is insane. Like, even if China did try taking over Taiwan, which, sure, for many guests and purposes, they will try. The sheer fact that it's not connected by land means that invasion is not only going to take a massive set of resources to even try pulling off. I wouldn't be surprised if South Korea or Japan would not want that to happen, or at least considering the world would not want that to happen, considering TSMC builds mostly everything. And I think America is, the US is trying to get over that, slight barrier by building their own fabs, their own chip plants. But those won't be operational for another 10, 15 years. And even those might not be bleeding edge. So for the most part, as long as TSMC keeps making, top of the line, best in class chips, I don't think it's not even a question of China has the balls to take Taiwan on. It's more along the question of, what do you think the ramifications of that action are going to be? Like the moment you set foot on Taiwan with a militaristic intent and the world kind of sees, wait a minute, that's my bleeding edge chip manufacturer that you're attacking. I can't allow that to happen. Shit hits the fan real quick is what my assessment tells me, but it's too, hit or miss for me to say anything here. But the point I'm trying to make is, having this much investment to protect an adversary, not necessarily an adversary, to at least protect an asset across the Pacific Ocean, and then the amount of money you used to maintain this fleet is in the billions of dollars. And I already have, there's this weird sinking feeling of saying yes, you're putting in money to national security, but I would digress to think that I think to an average American person, you might be better off investing that money back into the country that needs those resources, especially considering the current, after post-COVID situation and things that are going on right now, and with the debt crisis that's going on, with the possible inflation and the possible recession that's coming in, you might want to allocate money a bit more, cautiously. Just seems to be a better allocation of resources. But hey, at least they can always say you got the best gun in the world, and hence they have the best defense, the best offensive capability in the world. But what good is that if, every single person or most people in your country are going to start starving because of the taxes that are going to come up? Hey, I'm just putting my opinion out there. Brothers and sisters, you are free. You feel free to correct me in the comments, but that's just my opinion.
For them. A task that might be hard to accomplish with only 19 planes. B-21 Raider is nicknamed the China Bomber because the US designed it with this exact scenario in mind. Its longer range and advanced stealth is reportedly suited to evade and destroy China's best defenses, and in order to have enough of them, the US plans to purchase 100 of them to start, meaning at $700 million each, this plane will cost the US at least $203 billion over the next 30 years.
That part of the Air Force is actually becoming more important, more critical than the fighters or the other types. If you've got to prioritize, I think you put the bomber right up there.
By building a plane that China can't detect, the US is hoping to deter it from even starting a war.
America's defense will always be rooted in deterring conflict. So we are again making it plain to any potential foe. The risk and the cost of aggression far outweigh any potential foe. The risk
Northrop Grumman. I don't know if that's a company that's...
and the cost of aggression far outweigh any conceivable gains.
But today, the Raider is still only in the testing phase. So how sure are we that it's going to work?
So there are absolutely risks that the B-21 will fall short. The first is that the program just goes terribly awry.
Rob Farley is an expert in military doctrine.
It's just really, really hard to design and build a large number of incredibly sophisticated pieces of military equipment. Most of these projects, you actually have to invent a ton of stuff. And then you hope that that process goes smoothly, and sometimes it doesn't go smoothly.
Like what happened to the Spirit. Once built, the special coating invented to absorb radar turned out not to work in heavy rain.
Ooh.
Fixing it required hours of extra maintenance, causing the cost of each Spirit to rise out of control, a phenomenon ominously called the death spiral.
And the death spiral is when Congress looks at this number, says, oh my goodness, these planes are $2 billion a piece, how can we possibly afford them? And says, well, let's try not to buy 100 of them, let's try to buy 50 of them. When you only buy 50 of them, you are including all of the infrastructure cost. Your cost per plane then skyrockets, right? Because you're getting fewer planes, but you're spending almost as much money.
That's how back in the 90s, the U.S. went from ordering 132 Spirits to receiving just 21 for $2 billion each. More recently...
Holy shit. I got the idea for $700 million per plane, but $2 billion a plane? Bro, that crash they showed us at the beginning is $2 billion burning. Holy shit.
A new stealth fighter jet, the F-35, flirted with the death spiral after many technical problems led to years of delays and billions in cost overruns.
Oof.
So far, reports claim that the B-21 program is on schedule and roughly on budget. But even if the U.S. does everything right, the B-21 could still fall short if its enemies develop even better radar that can detect it.
Now, in the past, there have been scenarios where we have bought brand new weapons, the B-58 Hustler, just in the strategic bomber family, which were almost completely rendered obsolete within 3, 4, 5 years of their development, right, by new technology.
In that case, the Raider's internal electronics that help it evade sensors are reportedly being designed to allow constant upgrades.
Okay.
So it will be able to keep up.
So some form of like modular kind of upgrade system. So just, keeping it relevant as long as possible, which is fair. Yeah.
And remain stealthy for decades. Despite these risks, the U.S. is moving forward and spending billions on what it believes is the plane it needs for the future.
Honestly, I think we don't have a choice. If you want to be a world power and you want to be able to deter countries like Russia and China, I think we have to have this capability. I would negotiate a hard bargain with the contractor, but at the end of the day,
it's all about the money. That's just it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you beautiful bastards in the next one. Peace. Take care. Nice.